community engagement with any questions yet?
Well, I do. Sorry.
Okay, you're
You
good.
said you already had the habit of writing. What were you writing?
Great question. So from about 2010 until 2016, there was an online magazine called Examiner, and I was doing a lot of coverage of community-based organizations. A lot of times when you think about it, there's some great people and there's some smaller nonprofits that really invest in the lives of people, but they don't always get the media exposure. So that was kind of the lane that I really operated in. I would sprinkle in some sports and some other things. So for 6 years, writing for that magazine and a contributor for others, I was already writing. But like I said, it's a difference when you're doing an article and it might be, let's say, 2 pages, versus you're going to change and transfer to doing a book that might be 60, 80, 100, 120. So I needed to get suggestions as to how to stretch my writing. So did I already have the habit? The answer is yes. But I guess a good analogy is like, when you're at home, for me, I started cooking with scrambling an egg. Then it's like, let me learn how to do toast. Let me learn how to do bacon, and let me learn how to do something else. So I had the habit, but I had to build on it. So hopefully that helps. Does that help answer your question? But it's a great question, though, seriously.
Okay, next question. Yes.
Which was your favorite book to write?
That's a tough one. Which one is my favorite? Any author will tell you all of them are their favorites. But honestly, the one that I come back to the most is probably my second book, 9 Stories of Faith. And here's the reason why. 9 Stories of Faith is an interview-based book where people who I know were kind enough to open about what their biggest daily challenge is. So just that alone is going to be something that is never going to go out, because all of us in some way, shape, or form have, are, or will have to go through some hurdle at some point in time. So when you have people who are kind enough to open up about, this is the biggest daily challenge I live with, and people opened up about life challenges that we hear more about, people living with a physical health challenge, a mental health challenge, life after incarceration. One of the people I interviewed just before he got married, his big concern is, am I really ready to do this? Things along those lines. And they spoke through the lens of their faith. Now, most of the people I interviewed were of Christian background, but there's one interview of Islamic background and one of Hinduism. So not only speaking to their faith, but best practices in health and wellness, how they use their support network, whether it's family, friends, loved ones, but how they change their way of thinking so they still live positive lives. So with the theme of all of us are dealing with something, but some people will deal with something each and every day, or something that really kind of, the whole we fall down and eventually get back up, that is never going to go out of style, because all of us in some way, shape, or form are going to catch it. We're going to catch something. A secondary piece is that interfaith conversation. And like I said in the intro of the book, it's not to convert people. But when you think about the traditional Islamic greeting, Wassalamu alaikum salam, it means peace unto you and peace back. So you can't argue with the translation. Like, if someone's going to bid you peace and acknowledge your humanity, that's kind of a good thing. Like, that really is kind of a good thing. So now if we kind of talk about the universalities of some of our faiths, think about where those conversations can potentially go. Now, all of a sudden, there's more people advocating for more of a need for independent bookstores, more of a need for literacy programs, more of a need for whether it's gender-related issues or what have you. If we figure out what brings us together versus what tears us apart, there's no telling the great things we can do. So like I said, all my books are my favorite. But if there's one that's like you can only pick one, then that would be the one that I would pick. So whenever I'm going through something, and before, we've all had a moment or two where our minds aren't right and you're a little bit clouded, and before you do something detrimental, like I tell people, you don't have to do things exactly the way that they're done in the book, but it lets you know that there could be a better way than what you are or aren't thinking. So that one, I think, is never going to go out of style. And for those reasons, of my favorites, That's my favorite.